Come ride the little train that is rolling down the tracks to the junction. Forget about your cares, it is time to relax at the junction. Lots of curves, you bet, and even more when you get to the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
It is run by Kate, come and be her guest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe, he's a moving kind of slow at the junction. Petticoat Junction.
Charlie. Besides, they burn hot and I'm in a hurry to get to Hooterville.
You keep taking up them ties, we won't make the next curve.
It's pretty straight from here. Go alone, Charlie. There's something waiting for me in Sam Drucker's store.
Another letter from that Lonely Hearts woman, Camille Tewksbury?
Even better than that, Charlie. It's time for another review. Hi everyone, I'm Future Rail Productions, and this is my review of my custom-painted Hooterville Cannonball from MTH. Before we get started on this review, I want to go over a little bit of the history of the real-life basis of the Hooterville Cannonball. Sierra No. 3, often called the Movie Star Locomotive, is a 19th century steam locomotive owned by the state of California and preserved at Railtown 1897 State Historical Park in Jamestown, California. Former transportation history curator at the Smithsonian Institution, William L. Withhun, I think that's how you pronounce it, described the locomotive's historical and cultural significance as Sierra No. 3 has appeared in more motion pictures, documentaries, and television productions than any other locomotive. It is undisputably the image of the archetype steam locomotive that propelled the U.S. from the 19th century into the 20th. It has also been called the most photographed locomotive in the world. The locomotive, a 460 10-wheeler, was built by the Rogers Locomotive and Machine Works of Paterson, New Jersey. Construction of the locomotive was completed on March 26, 1891, and it was given Rogers Construction Number 4493. It has 17 inches by 24 inches cylinders, 56-inch driving wheels, and weighs 50 short tons, or 45 tons, in working order. It was built for the Prescott and Arizona Central Railway as their locomotive number 3 and named W.N. Kelly after the company's treasurer. The company went bankrupt in 1893 and its owner, Thomas S. Bullock, relocated to California, bringing much of his railroad equipment, including number 3. He then entered into a partnership with Prince Andrei Potomsky, I think, and William H. Crocker, and together in 1897 they incorporated the Sierra Railway Company of California to connect Oakdale, California with the timber-producing regions of the Tuolumne County and Calaveras, I think that's how you pronounce it, County. The locomotive was rechristened Sierra No. 3 and played a key role in the construction of the railroad to Jamestown, California in 1897, followed by Sonora in 1899 and Tuolumne in 1900. It was the primary locomotive pulling freight trains on the railroad until 1906, when the Sierra Railway purchased a new Baldwin Locomotive 280. It played a significant role in logging, mining, and dam building operations in the Sierra foothills. Originally built to burn coal, the locomotive was converted to burn oil sometime between 1900 and 1902, and she still burns oil to this day. Sierra No. 3 was involved in several wrecks. In February of 1898, a switch mishap killed a conductor. His name was William G. Bailey. In September 1899, it derailed while backing up on a trestle, causing the trestle to collapse. And in 1918, just above Sonora, it rolled over onto its side. and then the original wooden cab was destroyed, and it was replaced with a second-hand steel Southern Pacific Railroad cab, which she still wears to this day. 2 years later, Sierra No. 3 made her first known Hollywood film appearance in a silent film called The Terror, starring Tom Mix. During the Great Depression, the Sierra Railway went into bankruptcy and was reorganized as the Sierra Railroad Company in 1937. Sierra 3 was taken out of service in 1932 and sat on a siding in Jamestown Yard for 15 years. It managed to avoid being scrapped during World War II and again received attention from Hollywood in 1946 when Dave O. Selznick, the producer of Duel in the Sun, being filmed on the Sierra Railroad, proposed to destroy her in a train wreck scene for the movie. However, Sierra Railroad's master mechanic Bill Trayman persuaded the railroad ownership not to consider a notion so ridiculous, and instead shop crews restored the locomotive to operation for potential charter and movie service. Inspection of the boiler proved it was in serviceable condition. However, the resulting work required a reduction of the maximum allowable working pressure from 160 pounds to 150 pounds. The rebuild was completed in 1948, and the locomotive officially returned to service, heading a Railway and Locomotive Historical Society sponsored excursion train on May 30th. Over the next half of the century, Sierra 3 pulled tourist excursion trains and appeared in dozens of films, TV shows, and commercials. The locomotive was often redecorated for various movie and television appearances, one of its most famous roles being the Hooterville Cannoball from the mid-60s series Petticoat Junction. False smokestacks were often installed to alter the appearance of the locomotive. In 1979, Crocker & Associates announced their intention to sell their interest in the railroad to Silverfoot Inc., based in Chicago, but the deal did not include the locomotive facilities in Jamestown. The complex, including Sierra 3, was acquired by the state of California as a result of legislation. I can't even pronounce that. Legislation? Oh man, I hate politics. By Governor, and it was passed in April 1981, signed by Governor Jerry Brown, and it was completed in September. And since then, the locomotive has been the property of the state of California. In 1995, the Federal Railroad Administration issued new safety standards for steam locomotive boilers. In order to comply with these revised regulations, Sierra 3 was removed from service until a complete evaluation of the locomotive's condition could be made. Preliminary repairs were completed in 2000 to 2001 with deferred maintenance funding from the state of California. This included dismantling the locomotive. The project progressed very slowly until 2007 when a major fundraising campaign began. At that time, the budget for the project was estimated at U.S. amount of dollars at $600,000 based on the assumption that the existing boiler could be saved. In a fundraising appeal, Clint Eastwood described Sierra 3 as like a treasured old friend. Eastwood had ridden the locomotive early in his career on the TV series Rawhide, and then later used the locomotive in his own productions called Pale Rider and Unforgiven. Eastwood also wrote, Sierra No. 3 resides at Railtown 1897 State Historical Park. It is housed in the original roundhouse, which is still in use. Together, these two assets provide a rare opportunity to experience history just as it was 109 years ago. Funding continued to be supplied via the California Cultural Historical Endowment, the Irving J. Simmons Foundation, the Sonora Area Foundation, California State Parks Foundation, the Tech Chart Foundation, DuPont, and many other donors. The rebuild included boring out the cylinders and turning the drive wheels on a lathe. When work on the disassembled locomotive resumed, the boiler was inspected thoroughly by ultrasound testing, and it was discovered that a new boiler was necessary. Its old lap seam design made retrofitting it to modern standards too costly, and the risk of the boiler losing its historical integrity was a risk Railtown staff decided not to take. Engineering drawings and other technical assistance needed to build a boiler were provided by the Strasburg Railroad in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The old boiler was shipped to be used as a pattern to the Chilatichi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Boiler Works of Camas, Washington, which fabricated a new welded boiler at the cost of $6,000. The boiler was then shipped to the historical Southern Pacific shops in Sacramento, California, and fitted on the original frame. The locomotive was then trucked back to Jamestown for final assembly. The old boiler is currently on display at Railtown 1897. The current configuration of the locomotive represents her appearance during the year 1929 when the movie The Virginian was filmed and provided the first known evidence of the presence of the three-spot steel cab, or the second-hand cab that she got after she rolled over in 1918. Final cost of the rebuild was $1.6 million, and the locomotive officially returned to service on July 3rd, 2010, and she's still running to this day. Now, instead of listing out every single movie appearance or TV appearance that the engine has been in, because that would just take too long and there's too many to count, I'm going to show you a quick clip from the TV series Ultimate Restorations, which had an episode about Sierra 3 and her restoration. And it's just a little quick clip of basically some of the major movies she's been in. And then if you guys want a full list, I will leave a link to the Wikipedia page about her, which has the movie and TV appearance that the engine was in. And I'm going to show you guys that clip now.
You want to call me that? Smile.
Hey, listen, you blow that whistle again, and I'll blow you right out of that cab.
Tracks are one thing, but trains running on them are another.
Get that pile of tin warmed up and take us into town. You heard him, Gus. Fire up. We're going back to work. It's coming around the bend.
So whether they know it or not, most people have seen this locomotive in a movie because it is one of the most widely filmed steam locomotives. It's still one of the oldest ones in existence. So really it was the movies in a lot of ways that saved this facility and these locomotives.
She had survived the scrapyards of World War II, continuing to star in movies and television. Finally, tired and broken, she just couldn't work any longer, steaming into the Jamestown station for the last time in 1998.
Now that you know a little bit of history about the real Sierra 3, let's talk about this model. Now, originally when I bought this model, it was painted as the Great American Circus model. So when I play the passenger freight announcements later in the video, you will hear the sound effects as it was when it was the Great American Circus 10-wheeler. In front of the engine we have a nicely detailed pilot. We got a nice cast-in cowcatcher and a nice casted-in front coupler. Now, I'm going to say this right now. The engine has some artistic license to it, like with these handrails here. The actual engine does not have handrails right here. Moving down the side of the engine, you can see the nicely detailed running gear, and you can see the wheel arrangement as well. It's a 4-6-0, meaning 4 lead wheels underneath the pilot, 6 drive wheels, and 0 trailing wheels underneath the cab. Moving back to the front of the engine, we can see the nicely detailed smoke box door with some rivet detail there. And then on the cylinders here, you can see they're clearly painted 2 different colors. Now, the original cylinders, when the engine was portrayed as the Hooterville Cannoball, there was gold paint here and on the other side as well. But the guy who painted this for me forgot to add that detail, so I will eventually get some gold paint and fix that detail there. Although I might not do the other side because that's where the piston slider goes, and I don't know if that'll jam up the piston slider or not, and then that could do some damage to the locomotive. Moving up to the headlamp of the locomotive, you can see that it's retained the original drawing from when it was painted as the Great American Circus. It's just a simple waterfall with some trees and all that, but from a distance it kind of looks like a deer, and that's what the original locomotive had on its headlamp. Now, the position of the headlamp is probably going to bother some people. The headlamp is actually a lot smaller, and it sits right on top of the smoke box. just in front of the funnel. But, size, wires getting the light bulbs in, it's a small scale, very low detailed model. You get what you're going to get, so it's not going to be perfect. On top of the engine, you can see the smokestack, and inside the smokestack, you have the smoke unit. And to load smoke fluid into the smoke unit, you simply pour it straight down the stack. On top of the engine, we have the bell, and it's not the original bell. It's actually one that was given to me by the guy who repainted the locomotive. And behind that, we have the sand dome. Now, on the sand dome, you can clearly see there's a number 8. And when I mentioned in the history section of this review, I said Sierra number 3. Well, in the first 2 seasons of Petticoat Junction, they had number 3 on the sand dome and, on the tender or on the front of the smoke box. But when they changed to color, they changed it to 8. So if they ever had the engine going one direction for a random plot point or another, they could flip the footage, and then the 8 would still remain number 8 because, well, you can flip it and it's still a number 8. Whereas a 3, you can't really flip because it'll turn into a backwards 3. So that was a nice Curie. I'm not sure what kind of it was a creative choice, I guess you could say, but I kind of wanted to have a 3, just for memorabilia's sake, but having the 8 is kind of cool too, because I kind of like the way the engine is painted. Now, before we continue on, I want to go over what's probably the most eye-catching part of this locomotive, and it's the boiler. The boiler is painted kind of this dark bluish color, and that's kind of like Prussian blue. So when the locomotive was painted to be the Hooterville Cannonball, the boiler was kind of like this dark blue, kind of reflective material that almost looks black. It's kind of, I think they were trying to go for kind of a Russia iron, or like American iron kind of paint style. Kind of like what the original Jupiter 119 locomotives were made out of, their boiler jackets. They were bare metal jackets, but they were made out of special metal that would never corrode, never rust. And I think that's what they were trying to go for with the paint job for the show. Going back to the top of the engine, we can see that it has a dynamo here, and then the steam dome with pop-up valves and a whistle. Now, the location of these / the design of these is inaccurate to the actual locomotive. The dynamo has this little stem that goes up to maybe about here-ish. That's not present on this dynamo. And then the whistle is actually in the pop-off valve area, not here. Originally, the whistle was attached to the side here, but then the guy who repainted this drilled a little hole and stuck the new whistle through. So it's somewhat accurate, but at the same time, not really accurate. Moving back to the cab of the engine, you can see it says Hooterville Cannonball on the side, and it's the same on the other side. And on top of the cab, you can see that the roof is in a nice green, and it has a little cab roof vent here, but it does not open. Inside the cab, we have a nicely detailed interior. We have 2 crew figures, an engineer and a fireman. I like to think they're Charlie and Floyd running the Cannonball. And then we also have a flickering firebox that flickers when the engine is in operation. And then below that, we have the drawbar, which allows the electronics in the engine to communicate with the electronics in the tender. Now that we reviewed the engine, let's review the tender. On the side of the tender, we have a nice crisp C&FW Railroad logo. Now, there's a funny story about this. I'll tell you that now. So the funny story behind this logo here is that when I originally got the engine, the original logo that was put on the tender was actually inaccurate to the show, and I wanted it to be accurate to the show. So I'm going to show you a photo of that now, and then I'll be right back. So as you can see, it was fairly inaccurate to the show. So I basically wanted to change that. So I did some digging, and I found that someone had made a sprite drawing. Now, what is a sprite drawing? Well, somebody actually created a Microsoft Paint drawing of the locomotive and the coach. So what I did was, with his blessing, I took the photo, modified it slightly to give it the green insert because the original prototype had a green insert while the painting was missing that, and that's how I figured out the boiler was also blue. He had it black on the drawing, so that's how I managed to get it painted the right colors. And with his blessing, I basically took the tender, cut out the original logo off the painting of the tender, and then I scaled it up to size did some matching with it after carving it out with an X-Acto knife, and then taking some sticker printer paper that I picked up from Staples. I printed the finished logo onto the paper, peeled the cover for the sticky bit off, and then just lined it up properly and stuck it on. And it's perfect. Yeah, it's a little off-colored from the actual locomotive, but it's better than nothing. Moving to the top of the tender, we have the nice detailed wood load, and it's all cast metal. Moving to the back of the tender, we have a nice crisp number 8, and then the water hatch. Or it's probably a tool hatch. I'm not sure which it is. Let me know down in the comments if you guys know. Here's a quick look on the underside of the locomotive. We have the contact rotors, one here and one here. Some manual volume controls for the engine's smoke and sound, a switch to switch between DCS and DCC, and underneath the rear truck we have the speaker for the sounds. Now you may have noticed from the intro of this review that I was not using the coach from the show. I was using this Western Atlantic coach, which, you know, it's not accurate to the show. Well, the thing is, there is no model of the coach that's, you know, ready to run. However, that's changed because I found something pretty darn rare. So we've moved up from my basement layout to my workbench, which is currently situated in my living room. But this is the Sierra Railway No. 5 Combine baggage kit from Walthers. Now, I was pretty shocked when I found out Walthers made the kit. Now, this is built for I knew they made it for HL, but I never knew they made it for O gauge. This is for 2-rail O gauge, so, you know, with a little bit of finagling, I made it work for 3-rail. So, you can see that it's very nicely detailed. Like, well, it's not detailed yet, but here's the underside real quick. This is the bracing that the rail car has, and it has some air brake hoses, but I didn't attach them because 3-rail, you know, limited curvage or something, you need wider curves if you want the detail underneath. And, you know, I don't really need that extra detail because, you know, I'm not an avid modeler. But when I got the car originally, it basically came in this box here. It's from the 1970s, I believe. I know I put the lid, oh, here's the lid. Here we are, Walthers. So, it didn't come with the trucks, so I managed to find a rare pair on eBay. However, because they're white metal, the trucks actually fractured when I was trying to put it together. I'm trying to find the right one. Ah, here. So, I had to glue it back together, but, you know, it's not a really stable joint, and I don't think it would last, you know, the rigors of, you know, running. So I ordered some replacement trucks that are made out of high-grade pewter jewelry from Scale City Designs on eBay. I'll leave a link to their store on eBay. So these are made out of the bolsters and the side frames. They're made the bolsters and the side frames. They're made out of high-grade jewelry pewter. And then I just used the old wheels from the Walthers kit. And then on the back here, you got a scale coupler here. And then for connection with the Cannonball, I replaced the scale coupler with a 3-rail dummy coupler. So it works with that pretty well. And I've test run it. I'll leave a video at the end, or I'll upload it later or something. But here are the side frames for the body car frames. And you can see the 4 windows and the baggage door. And this is the left side. I've marked it with, you know, an L. And then the other side's right, and I marked it with a right. This is the roof. And these are the plans for it. It's got some details on the back, you know, and some instructions. But this is what it'll look like when it's done. So it's pretty time consuming, but sooner or later it'll be done, and then I'll be working on my layout, so it'll be fun when it's done. Now it's time for BFIMO, best feature in my opinion. Well, this engine has a bunch of great features, you know, sounds, smoke, you know, headlamp, flickering firebox, but my favorite feature, it's the custom paint job. You know, there's some things that are, you know, inaccurate, you know, missing paint on the cylinders, you know, all that, but I can look past that. It's quite a nice paint job. It's done nicely. And heck, it's even better than the standard paint job my Jupiter has, and that's one of the more colorful engines that I have. Even better than the 119's paint job. You know, MTH could really learn a thing or two from the custom painters, you know? Anyways, let's fire the engine up. Now we have track power, but we don't have power to the engine because my layout has now recently become completely command controlled. So, to fire up the engine, we need to fire up the DCS remote. So, I managed to pick this up for Christmas last year, I believe. So, you press and hold this button here to turn it on. I have version 6.10. And then I have the engine selected, which I've labeled as Sierra C&FW number 8. And then to start it, I would normally press the 3 button here, the 3 key, but I'm going to use the extended startup sequence, which I have set as S3 on the second scrolling. So here we go, we're going to start her up.
We've got a schedule to keep. Let's get our steam. Clean out the ash pad. Grab a shovel and spread out that coal. Check on that water level, will you? Swing that spout over. Okay, that's enough. Dope up those side rods, will you? Looks good. What are you seeing? I want to blow her down now. Clear? Clear.
As you can see, we got plenty of smoke coming out of the smoke unit. I use JT's Mega Steam, and the scent I'm using is wood stove. Okay, let's try the whistle. Here's the bell. Here's the forward signal. Here's the reverse. Here's the 1 toot. And here's railroad crossing. Here's some of the passenger freight announcements.
Now arriving from Philadelphia on track 1, train number 1, the Great American Circus.
Watch your step. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Ticketed passengers only. Let me help you with your baggage.
Now departing for Harrisburg on track 1, train number 1, the Great American Circus.
Welcome aboard. Step right this way. Watch your step. Thanks. All aboard. I see the conductor's checking his watch again. Must be time to go. Conductor's giving us a highball signal. Let's get down the line.
Okay, let's go ahead and move her on out.
Okay, shut it off. I want to blow her down now. Clear? Clear. Take care. See you soon.
That's it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. This engine is a bunch of fun to run. The details are amazing, the sounds are amazing, and the paint job is absolutely astounding. It really captures the spirit of the Hooterville Cannonball. If you're interested in picking one of these up, the retail price is $429.99, although if you go through a good MTH dealer, you could get a little bit of a discount. And I just want to make this clear, this is not the locomotive you're going to get when you buy it. It's going to be the Great American Circus or, Virginia and Truckee or whatever. This is just a custom paint job. I want to, repeat that really good. So, anyways, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Future Rail Productions, and I'll see y'all next time.
Petticoat Junction.